The Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development has held multi-stakeholder dialogue to come up with strategies to reduce the emission of methane and to eliminate gas flaring by 2030. The event, which had as its theme Strengthening Methane Emission Strategies in Nigeria's Gas Expansion Plans to Achieve a Sustainable Just Energy Transmission, was held in Abuja, the nation's capital. Participants at the event say the proper management of these emissions will be beneficial to the economy and environment.
Nigeria is trying to transition from fossil fuels to renewable energies, but it has determined that its pathway to achieving that is using gas as a transition fuel. With that ambition, there comes a couple of the constraints, there are implications of that pursuit. In doing that, there can be an increase in methane emissions, which is 80 times more potent than carbon emissions over a 20-year period. And that has a huge implication in contributing to the climate crisis that Nigeria and other countries have committed to avert by 2050 for some countries, but Nigeria has committed to avert that by achieve net zero by 2060. In doing that, Nigeria has to make sure that as it's expanding its gas use for clean cooking, for transportation, and all its other ambitions, it has to make sure that it reduces the methane emissions so that gas flaring and fugitives and venting have a minimal impact on those who live around the assets, so communities, women, children. So Nigeria has the responsibility to navigate this in a way that benefits its citizens and doesn't cause as many harms. Nigeria has committed to reduce methane emissions, gas flaring by 2030, fugitives by 2031. But it cannot do that if it's not able to track, first of all, the baseline. Where are we starting from, right? So that's one area that we also have proposed. And then getting a methane emissions framework, which we think that the NCCC, National Council on Climate Change, can frame, but the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources as well should create that framework, as they are the key institution that creates policy to drive these issues.
Energy transition has come not just as an idea, it's an idea that is already happening. Around the world now, the decline for fossil fuel is on the steady increase. So people are no longer interested in using hydrocarbon-driven vehicles. So even in Abuja right now, you have vehicles that no longer use fuel. So if in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, these vehicles flood the whole streets, and then the decline for fuel takes center stage, what are we going to do as a country that depends on oil and gas revenue for survival? Gas commercialization. But for gas commercialization, you need gas pipelines, you need gas infrastructure. And to get those gas infrastructure in place, we require a lot of revenue. The study done by 19 requires that we'll be investing like $20 billion every single year for the next 10 to 20 years. And that money is not easily available. So the solid minerals sector diversification is easier, and we need to begin to look towards that.
The idea is to ensure that methane emission reduction strategy is driven by knowledge, that everybody gets to know what it is so that they are able to track what if Nigeria is on track, in its methane emission reduction strategy. So we are very optimistic that this dialogue would, of course, with a lot of experts and subject matter experts here today, has broadened the minds and the knowledge base of participants, and hopeful that this would also improve the way they carry on this work in their various offices and institutions. Nigeria's plan to decarbonize is, it's been a conversation since Nigeria made the commitment, at COP26. And I think that what is important for stakeholders to do is to continue to, invest in knowledge to understand how better can we decarbonize sectors that continue to emit more emissions in the atmosphere. The race to net zero is not easy, but we are hopeful that little steps here and there will get there.